Hi there, I'm Linda and this is Huttons Valley Permaculture. It's autumn here and it's time to plant garlic. Behind me here is my garden bed that I'm going to prepare today, and I'm going to get my garlic in the ground. Then I'm going to head to the kitchen and preserve the remaining garlic cloves. This is the garden bed I'm going to use, so I've got to decide what I'm going to keep and what can stay. I usually clear the whole garden bed, but this year I've decided to leave some plants in place and see how we go. This plant here is a volunteer and I haven't quite worked out what it is, but it's great chicken feed. So I might just leave it a little bit longer because it's looking quite healthy. The nasturtium over the back there I can use as a mulch. Now in this garden bed I've got about 4 celery plants which are fairly slow growing, so I don't want to pull these out. They can stay. Just in the middle here is some comfrey. I made the mistake of harvesting some comfrey which had seeds on it and spread that round. So I'm finding some comfrey in places I didn't intend. So just be very careful if you're harvesting your comfrey. You just get it early enough. There's a little blue-banded bee in that flower. These lettuce plants have flowered and some have gone to seed. I've got plenty of lettuce in places and I've got plenty of seeds, so I don't mind chopping those off and putting that into the compost. Moving along, I've got some more kale plants that are second year kales. I just chopped those off at close to ground level, and this is the healthy growth that's resulted. I don't need it all, so I will be cutting some of that back a bit. I still have some zucchini plants in this garden bed. I did plant them later than my more productive plants in another area of the garden, just to see if I could prolong the harvest. So they will stay for the moment. This plant can probably go. Right here, this has been in the ground for a long time. Now it's a huge beetroot and I've left it there just so that it can grow some seeds. These are the little seeds here. Now I've usually planted seeds that are larger, so I don't know how well these will go, but I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to use these seeds and plant them quite thickly just to see if I can get some beetroot leaves that I can use in a salad. Just through here, I did try planting a cover crop back in spring. I put some cowpea down. Now I don't know if the season wasn't warm enough for the cowpea or it might have been too dry, and they didn't really take off. They're only just starting to go now, but I am going to cut them off at the base. Over here is another zucchini plant that I planted late. I do enjoy zucchini and put this plant in to extend the harvest a little bit. This is lemon balm, that can go, and there's the stray carrot. I did have a carrot bed here once and I must have missed pulling that one out, so we might harvest that carrot and take it inside. It's quite a big beetroot, but I'm going to put this aside and just see what seeds I can get and see if I'm able to germinate any. I've got plenty of this kale, so I don't mind getting this moved on. This will be heading to their usual place and the girls will love it. Any of these grasses I just like to really get out. That is quite a long garden bed, so what I might do is just clear the lettuce and maybe plant a patch of garlic in this section here but kind of leave these other areas for the moment. I'll also just get out some of the weeds that are here. What I might do with this comfrey plant is harvest it and just put it around these two celery plants, which look like they need a little bit of love. Oh, hello frogs, sorry. I've got so many frogs in this garden. Every time I'm out here, I come across one of these little guys. He'll find a new home though. That's as much garden prep as I'm going to do for the moment. So let's go inside and get our garlic cloves sorted. Okay, we're at the bottom of my pantry and that's where I keep my garlic. Now, as you can see, there's still quite a bit of garlic here, but there's a lot that's just rotting. I planted two different varieties last year, this white one and a purple one, and I don't remember the names. This purple variety did break down fairly quickly, so it didn't last. So I might get a new variety for next year, but these are what I've got to plant for this year. I am going to just sort out, the cloves that are big and good to go into the garden. The rest that are still okay, I'm going to preserve, which I'll show you a bit later. And of course, the ones that are already rotten will head off to the compost. So it's a bit of a tedious job, but it's got to be done. I'm just going to open up the cloves and sort out if they're good. That one's not a bad size, so that'll go into the garden pile. Any that are a bit smaller, I might put into the preserve pile. So I'm just going to take the best I've got and put that into the garden. This is one of those jobs that's a little bit tedious, so I'm going to put on a podcast. Just sit here and get it done, and then you can join me when I'm finished. Well, I'm all finished now. Here's the basket of cloves that I'm going to get into the ground. They're all good quality. This pile here is what I'm going to ferment so that it doesn't go to waste, because over here I've got plenty that have just really not lasted the distance. So I don't want that happening with these. So I'm going to put them into a paste that will last for 6 months. Before I head out to the garden to get the garlic in the ground, I'm going to get started with our fermented garlic paste recipe. We just need to pop this into the oven. It's got to be a really low oven, about 90 degrees Celsius or 70 if you've got a fan forced. And we're just going to leave those in the oven for up to 1 hour. Might get a second tray. Now the first thing I'm going to do is define the garden a little bit. Sometimes my wood chip path gets a little bit spread around, so I'm just going to decide where I need to plant, then establish a few rows. Now I'm going to do 3 rows through this section here. I'll just skip over this zucchini plant to the other side and I'll just define them. Start with, I'm going to spread these garlic out amongst the rows about 10-15 centimetres apart. And while I usually like to use no-dig methods, I am going to dig them in on this occasion. Last year I just left them in the compost layer and I found that birds really quickly dug them up. So I'm going to put them into the soil about sort of 2 to 3 inches deep, and then I'll be going over the top of it with my mushroom compost and even a layer of my own compost. So let's get started. Pointy end up. 1. Now I'm just trying to disturb the soil as least as possible. Okay, those 3 rows are done, and now I'm just going to water those in before getting some mulch on top. With my mushroom compost on my garlic bed, now I'm going to add some of my homemade compost. This dried out during summer, so it's essentially a mulch, but it does have extra nutrition in it, which is what I want to add to this garlic bed. Well, that's half the garlic bed planted. The other half is going to have to wait till tomorrow, because right now we're going to head to the kitchen and finish off that fermented garlic paste. The cloves have been in for about 50 minutes, and I'm just going to test some. You can feel it slides. There we go. That's come out now, so I can get the rest of them out of the oven and get going with getting these skins off. So now all I've got to do is just pop all these little cloves out of their skins, which is going to take me some time, but it's going to be a lot easier than if they hadn't been heated. The standard recipe is 8 heads of garlic, 2 teaspoons of salt, and 1 lemon, just the flesh, so you remove the rind and the seeds. With my garlic, I'm kind of having to guess because they're very small cloves, most of them, and it's hard to kind of round up and decide how many cloves that was. So just keep in mind the recipe when you're making it for yourself. All we need to do now is add all of this to our food processor. And now we just whiz that up into a paste. You may need to scrape down the sides and give it an extra whiz just to make sure everything's mixed properly. All we need to do is add that to a jar and try and pack it in so that there's no air pockets. When your jar's as full as you'd like, I usually use a chopstick and just go through the jar and get out all the little air pockets. And now I want to exclude air, so I'm just going to pop this little jar on top and press that down, and that will really keep most of the air out. And just the lid on, just loosely. I managed to pack a smaller jar as well. Once you've got your lid on loosely, just leave this aside. It's going to take 2 or 3 weeks to ferment, and if you leave it on a plate, that will collect any of the liquid that can bubble out of it. I'm just going to put this at one side of my bench, which will be out of the sunlight, and then once it's ready, I'll put it in the refrigerator. I ended up not using all of my garlic in the paste, but I have reserved some of my better heads of garlic to just store in the pantry for future use. But having this fermented paste in the refrigerator makes it really easy. About half a teaspoon of the paste equals a clove of garlic. So now that I've done all the fiddly getting the skins off, it just makes it really quick and easy for future cooking. Well, that's my garlic in the ground and some more paste soon to be in my refrigerator. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Thanks so much for watching, and bye for now.